Hi, welcome to Brown Girl Book Lover. I'm Leslie and Murray. Today I have Ladee Hubbard, who is the author of the novel The Talented Ribkins, which received the 2018 Ernest J. Grimes Award for Literary Excellence and the Hurston-Wright Legacy Award for Debut Fiction. And The Ribkin. Her writing has appeared in Oxford, American, Virginia Quarterly, and Callaloo, among other venues. She's a recipient of a Berlin Prize, boop, boop, a Radcliffe Institute Fellowship, and a Rona Jaffe Foundation Writers Award. Born in Massachusetts and raised in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Florida, she currently lives in New Orleans. Ladee, welcome to Brown Girl Book Lover.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I really adore The Ribkin. Tell us about The Ribkin.
Well, it's a historical novel. It's set in the early part of the 20th century, and it's the story of a man named August Sitwell. He's a servant of a wealthy white family in a city that resembles and in large part actually is Chicago, but is not named in the book. And he invents a meat sauce, and the recipe is, well, he actually gives it away. He shouldn't have done that, but he does. And it is sold with a caricature of his face on the label. It becomes a big national sensation, very popular product. And he doesn't receive any of the profits, and instead spends the rest of his life touring the country as the Rib King.
Some book reviewers have said The Ribkin is about the racist iconography of smiling faces of Blacks to market food and domestic products. While I agree with that, I also think it's about the quotating experience of Black life in 1920s that mirrors Black life now. Can you talk more about that?
I started writing this, the trial for Zimmerman with the shooting of Trayvon Martin was going on at the same time. And I think part of what was interesting to me was the thinking about as much as things had changed in 100 years. So the book is set roughly 100 years before I started writing it. That you would still have such a really basic threat in terms of the vulnerability of African-American children to racial violence. And that's how I processed it, because I am a parent of teenagers. So to me, that is a child. That's because I'm a mother. So that's how I saw that. And so that was very much a part of what I was thinking about when I was writing it, was how much, how certain things that seem real basic have not changed, right? Mm-hmm. As much as things are supposedly have changed in this country over the past 100 years, and they have, but that's a real kind of basic and visceral fear that people have to deal with. It's absurd. Do you know what I mean? So that's part of what I was writing about. And then also, I think there was a lot of talk at the time when I started writing it about hoodies. Mm-hmm. And that really made me think of masks and like Black masks, and sort of that there was sometimes an idea expressed that he should have known what he looked like wearing a hoodie, and how like people are often asked to take responsibility for the things they're being victimized by, right? So it's his responsibility to present himself in a way that will be non-threatening, and someone else gets to define what is non-threatening. But if you're not always aware of that and vigilant in terms of that, then somehow you are responsible for what might happen. So that made me think very much about minstrelsy, and I think stereotypes about the Black identity that a lot of them have their origins in minstrelsy, which was extremely popular in the United States 100 years ago also. So.
Well, I'm impressed how you moved from Trayvon Martin hoodie to like mask eventually.
Right?
And
Yeah.
then the Rib King, that's like, your mind is wonderful.
Well, I did. That's not, I'm so glad that you say that, because before the book was finished, it was very hard to explain what I was doing to people, like why I wanted to write about this. So I'm glad that you're saying it.
I wanted to talk about the class tension in the Rib King, because that was also beautifully done. We see that there's this rising class tension between the white working class and the rich bosses, but instead of the white working class seeing that this is not a matter of race, this is a matter of class, they take out their frustration on the Black workers.
Right.
And that still happens today.
I think because I did do a lot of historical research on what was going on at that period of time, and it does seem to be a pretty long-standing pattern that people are kind of it will express a lot of resentment and antagonism at other oppressed people, and it's actually very self-destructive ultimately, because you're not, I mean, what do you really, what do you, I mean, I guess you are getting something out of it, but what are you really getting out of it? So, and it does seem to be a very unfortunate, long standing pattern in this country. I don't know what to say about that exactly. It's pitiful, but I don't, do you know?
Yeah.
Seems it's pretty long standing here. It's very sad.
It is very sad. And, you know, like, it is very sad. And I'm always like, how do we change this? Or, well, I think there's structural changes need to take place. But when I'm reading this novel, I kept seeing like so many things that are happening in the 1920s, a mirror of today. And while we have had so much progress, like these chains of like history still like keeps pulling us back. And that's sad to see. It's like we're making progress, and at the same time we're not.
Right. Yeah. No, it's it's very sad. I actually talk about it a lot when I'm talking about what's going on in this country. I wind up talking about that a lot because it's almost mind-boggling. Do you know? So yeah, so there's such a unwillingness to really address honestly history in this country, and that seems to be a big part of why it keeps repeating itself.
How do you find joy, I guess, when writing, or how do you put joy in your novel?
Right. Well, I really appreciate the resiliency, even in the first section, of a lot of the characters. Their presence meant a lot to me. And that's part of why I said I really felt like the Mr. Sitwell needed Jenny, because she's a very different person, and I think that she's a very life-affirming character for me. And so it's interesting because I feel like I wanted them to be in a way dealing with the same dynamics, but she's processing them in a totally different way. I think that obviously African-American history has been very hard, right? There's a lot of reasons to be nihilistic about things, but I actually think that it's, there's a lot of that is not nihilistic also, in terms of Black culture and Black creativity, and a lot of things that have come out of these very difficult experiences. And for me, that's part of what the Jenny section was meant to express, because I do think that's, like, if I'm talking about like our history and the relationship between the past and the present, then I think sort of this I don't know, she's a little less rational. There's something very linear about what happens, and it's pretty bad what happens to Mr. Sitwell, but in a way it's much more rational. Do you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think that is a complete picture, obviously, of African-American culture, African-American people. And so I really wanted to embody that too. That's like very important for me. She's like a rebuttal in a sense to nihilism for me. That's how it felt when I was writing her. Yeah. The depth of the humanity of my ancestors, of people that came before me, and also the beauty and dignity of them. That's what I was, I don't know if that is fully makes sense. That feels like it's very abstract, but I think that there's something very, I don't know, inspiring and beautiful that means a lot to me in terms of not just what people survived, but that they were actually able to create beauty from it. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of why, again, Ginny is very important to me. Do you know? Because she is someone that has experienced a lot of tragedy as well, and a lot of difficulty as well, and she processes it in a very, very different way. So they're both I think it's important to sort of acknowledge the pain and the anguish that I think Sitwell's experiences ultimately represent, but also the fact that people kept going and they kept producing beautiful things, and they kept being sort of unrealistic in their expectations of themselves and others, right? Which took a lot of strength. So, and that's all. To me, it's a tribute to sort of the strength and beauty of my ancestors.
Let's talk about your latest book. Tell us the name of it and tell us what it's about.
So yeah, so in March, on March 8th, actually, there's it's a short story collection called The Last Suspicious Holdout. And all of the stories are set in the same town. It's a Black community in the same town, and they take place, it's the 1990s to 2007. So it's like time to be right before Obama became president. So I was very interested in that period of history. So
you're so interested in history as a writer.
I was supposed to be an academic, and it didn't turn out that way. So I don't know if this is something, these are things I did research on and stuff, and this is the way I process them. And so I was very interested in so during that period that I'm writing about in here, there was a lot of talk about post-racialism and all this colorblind stuff. And I was just interested in sort of thinking about what that actually meant in people's lives, and where it came from and what it was doing. And I think that, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just the way I process things that have been interesting to me, like intellectually. I want to write a story about it, or stories about it. So
of the Rib King, thank you for joining me on Brown Girl Book Lover. I really appreciate
oh my gosh, it was so nice talking to you.